All right, welcome to another episode of the Lockdown Podcast. We are here to continue to pick apart Raw, SmackDown, PLEs we're working towards. So we are finally back to full strength after Tim and his many adventure jobs and crazy schedules and all that nonsense. But it's nice to have all three of us together versus two. Not that I don't love you, Frederick, but it's a three package here. So how's your guys' week been? I know we obviously got plenty to get to, but it's nice to do a check in and
Yep.
see how everyone's doing.
Long and tiring.
I've been uh I've been waiting for Sunday so we can definitely talk about WWE and all of its welcoming back of talent and stories and yeah. So yeah.
It is good. It is the nice start of the week. I guess you could say something. You know, it's kind of the weekend. But so I feel like Raw kicked off great. John Cena didn't even get really much of a word in edgewise until Randy Orton came out. And honestly, I thought this segment, honestly, they just let it go. They really didn't. It didn't seem like they had much of a time frame. They pretty much just went jab for jab. And honestly, I feel like Randy Orton really showed a lot more premise than John Cena because it just continues to him being the same goofy heel that he's attempting to be. And a lot of the things that Randy Orton said were very true. Um, in regards to the Make a Wish stuff, and I thought it was kind of interesting to Randy Orton to throw the jab about starting a family and stuff like that, and John Cena basically, I've been taking care of your kids for 25 years, like that little soft jab. And I didn't actually realize until I actually brought up the Raw and SmackDown things as I do on my other screen over here, and the bottom of his shoes actually say Jack. I don't know what I don't know what the other shoe says, but it's kind of in a reference to the whole Cactus Jack thing with Travis Scott, and that whole merch line that he put out during WrestleMania
All
weekend.
on the bottom of his shoes.
Yeah, and so I didn't even really notice it like watching it live or not live, but just
Me
watching it.
neither.
Um, Definitely interesting, and now that obviously we're getting Randy Orton and John Cena, which literally that would have been better WrestleMania match than three-quarters of the card at WrestleMania. Obviously, John Cena didn't have the title until that match versus Cody, but like Randy Orton John Cena is a headline of headline match, period. Because they've both been in the business for over 20 years. Well, some of them have been in the business for over 20 years. Some of them decided to come back after Hollywood years, but I digress. But um, so I know we talked about this beforehand in regards to this whole Liv Morgan and Raquel getting their rematch like the next night on Monday Night Raw and winning their titles back and all this nonsense. And it's a very subpar flex that they've won them 4 times because I can't name a team who's had 2 opportunities at the title belts on the whole roster for the length of them having the women's tag team titles.
Yeah.
So it's really laughable. It's very boring to me. I think it's even below mid for me
Mm.
on their continued title reigns and having them 3 and 4 times. And I don't care if you have them 10 times, you're still a shit tag team that gets more opportunities than literally everybody else. You know, because in all reality, they're a thrown together tag team, just somehow with the whole Judgment Day twist to it. But like, there's really not much of a tag team division in WWE, with the exception of some stuff in like NXT. but like there's really nothing on the main roster other than I guess her service, Chelsea Green's group, Caden and Katana Chance. I mean, a lot of the groups have been broken up or been released in the last 6 months to a year. So I think it's laughable to say they've won them 4 times. So I mean, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. I mean, it
There's gotta be something coming up. You know, I think it makes sense to put the belts on them for an upcoming Judgment Day implosion or explosion, because you've got Finn playing second fiddle to Dominic Mysterio because he's got a singles championship. You've got Liv and Raquel, they've got a championship. Carlito's just happy to belong and still be alive after that spear Braun Breaker gave him. So
the
so
spear of the century, the spear
Yeah.
of the best spear in the last
That
10
has to
years.
say,
Yeah.
that's the best spear ever.
it
Like,
was
Dude
very
can,
good.
Like
Yeah.
that was like he was like shot out of a cannon.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
was
looked like
very
he just came from the fucking sky the way he went down.
good.
Dude,
Yeah.
and he did, and then of course he does a flip while he's at it. Like, yeah, let me just make the spear look that much better.
Yeah,
but-
I don't think he had any other choice. I mean, it was either
Right?
that or he's
It
like
was just
impaled himself in his
momentum.
head.
It
Yep,
was
so-
pure momentum.
Yeah, I would not be surprised that Finn gets kicked out. They all jump Finn, kick him out. I don't think Finn goes back to being like a baby face, but he definitely will get his comeuppance, get pushed out of the group, and then we have like a whole bunch of championships.
Well,
like
and
in Judgment.
JD's back though, so
Yeah. So yeah, I could definitely see there being an implosion where Finn goes away.
I mean, I'd prefer Finn. I think we've been talking about this for
That's to
freaking
say,
months on end.
I think the Finn will leave because the way he gave Dominic Mysterio that look, and then looking at the championship belt walking up the rampway, it looked like he's about to leave.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, and we've been talking about this for literally months on end of the ever so implosion of Judgment Day. I mean, like you said, Carlito's just kind of there. But now with JD coming back, I mean, there's not enough room in the clubhouse. I mean, it was just the original Liv Morgan, Dominic, Finn, and JD, and then somehow we added on Raquel Rodriguez, and then we added on Carlito, and so like the group is honestly getting too big for its britches, and there's too many moving parts, and the ego we know Finn Balor has
Oh yeah.
and has had for the better part of a decade is not going to want to stick around and play second fiddle to Dom and all that nonsense. I don't even think them winning tag gold would even really want him to stay. I mean, like I said, there's just too much going on at the Judgment Day, and it's just getting to the point where it's just going to eventually implode.
Oh yeah, I can see it happening.
So after Liv and Raquel obviously won those titles, obviously Becky Lynch came back at WrestleMania, and they won the tag team titles with her and Lyra Valkyria, and obviously they lose them 24 hours later, which I didn't care for them winning, just because I know I've been very outspoken saying a million times over that these secondary titles are lackluster at best for the women's division. Why would you be at WrestleMania going for other titles when you barely even defend the secondary title you have?
Okay.
That spot could have been reserved for anybody. I would have been happier to see Bayley and Becky Lynch win those titles and then defend them and win them again. Just kind of a throwback to when Bayley and Sasha Banks kind of won the inaugural. I would rather see them tag up than I would for Lyra Valkyria. And not that I have any grievance with Lyra Valkyria. She's, for the limited crowd reaction she gets, she still does her job well. She's very polished in the ring. Like, I take nothing away from her.
Yeah, but like you said previously, that she already has a championship. So for her to be like a 2-belt champ doesn't really make sense, and it does take away from other opportunities. So I think going back to WrestleMania, writing Lyra Valkyria off
instead
and
of
putting
Bailey.
Bailey in, instead of Bailey, yep, and making that together seemed like it would have been a better pairing, because then we could have got Lyra like eventually like dropping her title to someone else. But now, more than likely, Becky Lynch will probably get the win over Lyra Valkyria, get her championship, and Becky becomes an even more decorated champ. And then we could
Yeah,
probably get
and
some Becky and Bailey stuff
yeah.
heading into SummerSlam potentially.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I don't think the Bailey injury is as extravagant. But I definitely think we're gonna get Becky versus Lyra. Lyra's gonna lose the belt to Becky, and because Backlash is only 13 days away. It seems to be like WrestleMania came, and then all of a sudden Backlash is so close and nearby. And I thought it was weird that we were so deep into the month of April for WrestleMania, because that leaves no room or no weeks of buildup for Backlash. So I feel like WWE kind of dropped the ball in that sense.
Well, it's
But
probably already, if we were to look back to see what the timetable is between WrestleManias and Backlashes, that they've probably been really close. It's just that I think WrestleMania,
I mean, someone want to fact check that.
WrestleMania might be like,
I
because
just
it
feel
was like,
like there's literally like 3 weeks, maybe. Yeah, I mean 3 weeks. We literally did a live stream last time, so like 3 weeks is not that long, and we really, and obviously we're on week 1 of the 3 week window, so I mean it's not like it's terribly far away where we're not going to have some kind of build or backlash, as it were, from WrestleMania, because obviously there was plenty of things to come out of WrestleMania. Um, I definitely think we're gonna get, as much candor as Bianca Belair did about the match and everything else. She's still pissed she lost. Like, and she was actually getting booed. So, but then she's apparently has some busted fingers or some nonsense, and so she kind of won't be doing a whole lot anytime soon. So I
so
definitely
getting back
think.
to
Go ahead.
last year's WrestleMania and Backlash. Last year, WrestleMania was April 7th, April 6th and 7th, and Backlash was May 4th. So, yeah,
A similar window. So I
yeah,
mean,
The same
as long
about same amount of weeks.
so I mean,
yeah.
as long as they build it right, I mean, honestly, like I think the Monday after WrestleMania and the Friday after WrestleMania, I think were good enough to give us some matches, um, not verified matches, but definitely something we can see build in the next couple weeks. Um, so Alpha Academy was supposed to have a match for the tag titles, and obviously that got interrupted by one Rusev, and the return of Rusev, looking honestly jacked as ever.
His fucking legs are huge.
Yeah, his legs are like not my waist, maybe Tim's, but like those would be some big legs. But I love this spot. He literally tossed around Tozawa like a dog chew toy. Um, and gave the accolade to Otis, which, being as big as Otis is, to basically manhandling Otis like that. I
Yeah.
look forward to what they're going to do. I feel like this might be a possible, maybe we get this match, maybe we get a Rusev versus Otis.
I love his new
Um,
music.
yeah, and so maybe, so I feel like we might get this match maybe. Or maybe for SNG's, Rusev does a handicap match versus Tozawa and Otis. I mean, I think either way he comes out on top. So Io Sky comes out, talks her talk about, put some respect on my name, essentially. Not to quote Mandy Rose, that thinks that phrase belongs to her. But and so basically we end up getting this, this match made for later on in the night with Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky. Obviously interrupted, go figure, because obviously you have champion versus champion, and that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But interrupted by Julia and Roxanne Perez. I love the NXT call ups. I think it's good. I think it shines some light on the things that I already know in regards to NXT. And the star power that they do have, and the determination to get to the main roster that they do have. So I don't know what's this is going to be a backlash that I have no idea what's actually going to happen. I really feel like we might honestly get Rhea versus Io Sky at Backlash. Now, obviously we had Julia and Roxanne involved. I don't think they're going to come on the main roster and get a title shot like that. So I see Roxanne and Julia being more of a problem in NXT this week in regards to Stephanie Vaquer. I see that being an NXT problem, but Rhea and Io Sky is a Raw problem. And I feel like we're going to get this match because obviously Bianca's out, so now it's going to be a one-on-one. And I think Rhea wins. I think this adventure that they've tried to portray with the Japanese, Chinese, whatever. I hate to be not even.
She is
sensitive.
Japanese.
So like that whole like representation of being the champion in Outlaw, and I'm not against it. And they did it for the sole purpose of that accolade of having that. But I think it's back for Mommy to be on top.
I disagree. I think that they've got something planned for Io Sky, and I would like to say maybe it's Asuka and Io Sky down the road. I don't think Mommy gets it. I think Rhea Ripley, I think she gets another feud with someone else. But I don't see Rhea Ripley and Io Sky at Backlash. Maybe some other time. But for right now, I think we're gonna do some stuff with Io Sky, and I think it's kind of refreshing because if it wasn't Io Sky, it might be Asuka, and Asuka is a little bit older. So I do think having Io Sky or even Kairi Sane hold that championship, it does do a lot more for women's wrestling in the WWE, especially when it comes to upcoming multi-promotion events such as WWE Worlds Collide. Would not be surprised if we have a lot of matches like that.
I mean, but that's going to be like the NXT crossover thing they're going to do with that. Obviously, they just recently bought AAA Wrestling, and so that's going to be an NXT thing. Unfortunately, I think they're having that on that same week. Worlds Collide. I think it is on Backlash weekend. I think, could be wrong, but and so yeah, I don't see anybody from Damage Control going after the title. I feel like they're broken enough with all the injuries. I don't see anybody from Damage Control coming and if they might come back, but I don't think they're fighting for the title. And maybe, and for all intents purposes, maybe we get that match at Backlash between Rhea and her, and maybe she wins again. And then she's like doubling down, and you're like, guess what? I beat you once, I beat you twice. Now let's beat you 3 times. So now you can get to the back of the line. And so maybe we get that. Maybe we get, her saying, I beat you the first time for it. I beat both of y'all at WrestleMania. Fine, run it back again. I'll beat you again. But I would prefer they would get some new feud going. because like we've said a million times, is that we seem to get the same people in the same situations, the same championships going after all the time, and it gets very repetitive. And so maybe we get a refresher. Maybe we get a number one contenders match at Backlash or something for the next PLE or something, maybe, just because we need a refresh on who's getting opportunities.
Mhm.
So I think we maybe will get, like a fatal 4-way something, maybe at Backlash for the number one contender, just so that gives her a little of like cushion time to kind of recoup from the 1,000 matches she's been having. Give more of a build for a title contender. But so speaking of titles and speaking of champions, so Jey Uso basically comes out, does his thing, and here comes the one, the only returning Sammy Uso. And what a return. I know like he was out with some stuff. Obviously it sucks that he missed WrestleMania, but definitely nice to see him come out. And their handshake, I wish I even know how to even that's so much going on. And I think honestly, I think it's really cool though. Because like these three, so obviously Jimmy comes out after, and like these three have been on a roller coaster for probably 3-4 years. I mean, originally it was Jimmy Uso that was all about Sami Zayn, and then this has been a fun story. Even if it's not a wrestling match, it's been a fun story. Like just because, the whole Sami Zayn stuff, and then take off the shirt and then gives him honorary Uso shirt, and like all of this stuff, like this is great storytelling without a wrestling match. So I honestly like, it's great. I seen the WrestleMania tap out was a little bit rushed. And a lot of people noticed that because Jay's not a submission specialist by any stretch. He literally put him in the hold and took him down for like 3 seconds before he tapped. I mean, I don't think Frederick. Did you see that in the first? Did you watch the first night of WrestleMania?
Nope, I didn't.
So it
I
was
missed
it
that.
was the kickoff show, and it was just it was a great match, but like a weird finish. Because basically it went back and forth with different moves and everything, and then Jay puts him in, the sleeper hold, whatever, across the legs and all that stuff. The same thing that Gunther has done to numerous people over the last couple years. And he doesn't even have him in the hold for that long before he taps. And so yeah, and like it was a mess. But so Gunther's pissed, right? So after this whole segment and everything, Gunther comes out and he's just pissed. And I'm pissed watching this segment. And basically he comes out and basically attacks Michael Cole. Pat McAfee gets involved, and obviously Pat basically saves Michael Cole, and it was hard to watch, like truly, because like you, to a certain extent, that move can hurt, and especially for how long that he did it to Pat McAfee. And obviously Pat McAfee's crew from his show, they were rushing through trying to figure it out. But like, I'm glad. So we found out basically via I think it was Twitter or Instagram from Adam Pearce, is that he's been fined an undisclosed amount. Okay. So he's been fined an undisclosed amount, and he is suspended indefinitely. I don't see this happening too long. The indefinitely things never really last that long.
No.
But I really hope he honestly is.
Yeah.
Because even like this segment, take it for what you want, it looked genuine.
Right.
And so like good on him for being fined and suspended. I hope we don't see Gunther for 3 months minimum. I just hope, like, just go. It was ridiculous, and Michael Cole's response to it was anything but veteran status. He's like, I ain't taking crap from anybody. Because Jerry Steratore basically came out temporarily or ended up taking Pat McAfee's spot. Michael Cole's like, fuck this. I'm going back out. I'm going to do my job. I'm not going to be bullied by Gunther. And obviously finishes the show, but like just a terrible amount. It's just stupid. Like, even if this was a toss, like this just was whatever, but like it was bullshit. And this, honestly, I think this was even too gruesome for people in-house or watching. I think this should have never happened. There should have been something else that got him suspended.
You know, I think it's a good way to write him off TV. I did see a couple places online that he had requested time off, and that was a great way to write him off TV. But we have seen, I know we have seen actions like this in the past where it's been like, you know, a Brock Lesnar style beat down on someone. Brock Lesnar was notorious for doing that stuff.
Right.
You know, there was even that time back during the Performance Center lockdown era, where Seth Rollins was bullying Michael Cole, and Samoa Joe, like, you know, stepped up, you know, and was like, hey, we can get into some stuff. So we have seen where announcers get that work sometimes. I remember there's I just saw, like, within the last few hours of us recording, that Jim Ross, you know, had a match, you know, or he got a beat down, and you know, he got taken to the woodshed a couple of times. So yeah, it seemed like it was overdone, but in my opinion, couldn't happen to a better guy than Pat McAfee, because, you know, it's Pat McAfee. He can take it. He's been in the ring. He's taken a few stunners.
I'm still mad about Corey Graves.
Yeah.
And yeah. I haven't read any stories or anything online in regards to why they did what he did. But Corey Graves was legitimately the predecessor to Michael Cole,
and that's
if and when he retires anytime soon. And I mean, I'm not going to touch on it, but I'm just irritated that they moved the parts they did.
Yeah,
and I
don't like the fact that Corey Graves is not on a main brand show, because we've become so accustomed and used to Corey Graves, and he can play both sides of the color commentator role, whether he's being a face or whether he's being a heel, depending on who's in the ring. I think he does his job very well.
Yeah.
Like before, Seth, you were inspired by Corey Graves to start this, you know, podcast journey. So I get it. But did you see Corey Graves' post when that was going down with Gunther and Michael Cole and Pat McAfee? He had a very choice response to that, and if it did not give any type of hinting of what's going on, I think, you know, it may have just been in tongue in cheek. But, you know, it's unfortunate that Corey Graves is not calling either Raw or SmackDown.
I mean, I'm reading stuff and I'm really not. He's more or less just frustrated. Like, I don't think this is, you know, anything Michael Callback, I mean, commentating, blah, blah, join. I don't like that they brought in Jerry or Joe Steratore or Testator or whatever to replace him. Like, they already had a good commentating team. I don't know. And it basically said there was along the lines of, you know, someone said he's not famous enough, but obviously that was bullshit. He basically deterred that from being fact. But it just
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
we'll leave that as it be. But so in typical fashion, obviously Dominic beats Penta in a good old fashioned Judgment Day interruption BS.
Oh yeah.
It's exhausting every match. Every match the Judgment Day has, let's say 90%, just for S&Gs to say they maybe have a match that's clean. Like, it's getting boring. Like, and then obviously we get the the return of JD McDonough, but like, I'm not all
AKA
about it.
bobblehead,
Bobblehead.
So
pretty much.
yeah, pretty much. So this is the talk of the land, and so Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman come out and basically talk, about the whole, why they aligned. CM Punk comes out, Roman Reigns comes out, and the person that I feel like was being groomed to be where he after this very segment is something that Paul Heyman talked to Braun Breaker a while ago about, and
More
it was
than a year ago.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
and so now we get the alignment of not only Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, but now Braun Breaker. And I've seen different videos. I don't know who's going to be the fourth person.
I'm gonna say
But,
Becky
like,
Lynch.
And so they basically kind of say that this is a evolution or a re-evolution, with the experienced guy, the younger guy, Paul Heyman being Ric Flair, Seth Rollins being Triple H, Braun Breaker being Randy Orton.
Yep. Randy
Um,
Orton or Batista.
Yeah. And
I'm
so
gonna say Batista.
Yeah.
I mean, however you cut it, but like what a turn. Like nobody's seen this coming.
No.
Nobody's seen Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman aligning, even with that segment, and he's like, "Oh, owe me a favor." Like, I really didn't buy too much into even that whole thing, but like the fact that how it happened was absolutely flawless. Like, first he gives the chair to CM Punk, gives him a low blow. Roman thinks, "Hey, he's with me again now," and then he low blows Roman. Like, oh man, I still love Seth Rollins. I think this is great. I think this is fresh. I think Seth Rollins, for being the workhorse he has been for damn near 15 plus years, like, this is great. So I'm all for it. I'm trying to wrap my head around who will be that fourth person. It could be Becky Lynch, but I know Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch said they really never wanted to work together. So I don't know who will be Mr. Fourth Person, but
we'll find out Monday.
Yeah, I'm on pins and needles, honestly. Like, I think this is good stuff, man. So over to SmackDown. So we get again another segment with Randy Orton and John Cena. And pardon my saying on the Raw stuff that they had the match. The match was actually created on SmackDown. And so, man, Randy Orton is a dog. And you could see, like, I don't know if you've seen even in the clips, like, he had this like little wrinkle in his forehead. Like those voices were talking, and he RKO's John Cena again. So I cannot wait till Backlash to see these two absolute veterans go at it.
Yeah, it's the opposite turns. You got Cena as the heel and Orton as the good guy.
Orton is Orton. But like, wouldn't it be really, really funny if Randy Orton wins, and then the rest of the year John Cena is just, I don't believe he will lose the title, but like, because it's like because John Cena basically at this point we're the last 7 months of the year, and when are you going to have those fantasy booking matches? Is because it's like I feel like the whole heel thing for the whole year just seems a little bit silly. Like I feel like but what I'm saying is that like we want those fantasy booked matches, right? Like we want
we can still get them. It's just that Hina is going to go through his, his heel phase, and I think the challenge is how long they, the WWE's creative machine can push Cena being a heel. Could they do his 27 remaining dates or 36 remaining dates or whatever it is? Could they do it? And for me, I would like to see them accept that challenge and have Cena go out as a heel. And to be honest with you, I think the last match I would want to see with Cena is either R-Truth or CM Punk. Though for me, that is what it is. And along the way, he can have matches and stories that help elevate other talent. Like our Carmelo Hayes, like our Braun Breakers, but yeah, you have your fantasy matches, have your fun, and if this is fun and fresh and exciting, so be it. Like, let's see if they can do it. For me, the challenge is
Cena and R-Truth there.
Yeah,
R-Truth being R-Truth, man.
Yeah, it's let's go.
Let's see what they can cook up.
Yeah, let's see how long before they decide, all right, this is not working, because let's be honest, it really isn't working that well. No one is like booing him out of the building. No one's like, he's not going to get major heat. And the only way we can get major heat from John Cena is for John Cena to like absolutely just destroy a fan favorite for no reason. And unfortunately, that looks like it would be R-Truth. If you want to get major heat, like you crush a grown man's childhood hero.
Crush him bad, like hurt him.
Yes, So, and I don't want to see that for Truth.
And him beating up little Jimmy,
or R-Truth wins against John Cena and takes the belt.
I would
That's
lose
Frederick's lifelong dream.
I would lose you know what? I would probably say like I'm done with pro wrestling. I've seen
it all.
I've seen it all. I'm done. I'm retired. But I digress.
You're like I tip my hat to you, sir.
Good night. I think that is what we get. I think the last like little bit of his final run is we get a program with CM Punk. I think CM Punk and Seth Rollins still has a little meat on it. I think we get some Roman Reigns, CM Punk stuff. I think there is enough to keep CM Punk busy until it's time for him to pursue that championship. And let's go.
So like I've said about NXT 1,000 times over, there's a lot going on. But so Nathan Frazier and Axiom get their official SmackDown debut against Los Garza. And if you haven't watched the match, watch it. These guys never stop. Like, I've seen a lot of competitors between NXT and the main rosters in my life, and I have never seen two guys that legitimately are running a mile a minute. They are nonstop, and it is great. And so they obviously went against Los Garza, but man, I look forward to what they're going to do with them on SmackDown, because these guys are good. Like I think they held the NXT tag team titles, I think 3 or 4 times in NXT, but they held them for a long time. It wasn't no 2-week, 24-hour reign, cough, cough. And so they were holding them for a while. They were putting on literally 5-star matches. winning in fatal 4-ways, triple threats, whatever they could throw at them. Feel free to go and look up Fraxium or just Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Fraxium is their together name, but and look up the highlight reels because you're gonna see some fast paced young guys in the ring in the tag team division, and don't blink. So, oh, Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, Nia Jax, compiling segment, but really the story is Jade Cargill finally hitting her stride, trying to move past Naomi and her caution, whatever gimmick that is. She just wraps herself in caution tape and calls it an outfit. But I'm more concerned that Jade Cargill is finally hitting her stride and she's going to move past Naomi. And now I say Backlash, we get Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton. However it happens, whoever wins is good for business. Because Tiffany's been an absolute star. She beat literally the women's wrestling GOAT. Okay, I know Jade kind of dropped some bars about, oh, you didn't, you said you beat the best, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, Charlotte Flair is the best, okay? Like, I don't like it, but, like, her record stands for itself. Sorry, Jade. I don't know what, like, you were told to say, but it's not believable. Like, you're finally hitting your stride after being with WWE for what, a year and a half? I'm glad you're finally hitting your stride and you're becoming a better athlete, better on the mic. But honey, you've been on a good streak for 3 months. So
I think the booking of that, you've always got to have a cocky challenger, because if they weren't,
right.
Yeah, it would, just imagine Carmelo Hayes going after the United States Championship. If he was just really humble and really just happy to be there, it wouldn't have been believable that he was ever gonna get over that hump. So I get it. I appreciate it. Do I think it's true? Nah, not really. We've seen it, but at the same time,
they're two faces anyways, so it's not it's not a David versus Goliath situation. It's just David versus David at this point. So Nia Jax decides to interject herself though, and I don't know where she will land in this whole concoction. Maybe we get a triple threat.
Yeah.
But I don't see Nia Jax winning. And then however they put her, however they book her, I don't see her winning. Because Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill is a better story. Nia Jax is the Io Sky in this situation, where even though you know what I'm saying, like she's kind of the dark horse. Even though, like, I mean, obviously Io was the champ when that whole debacle happened, but like the bigger story is Jade and Tiffany Stratton, not Nia Jax. So, however they book it, however it happened, that might be. I'd say they're probably gonna make it like a triple threat or something. Maybe we get Nia attacking Jade Cargill, and next week or something, and maybe we get that, and here comes Nick Aldis, and well, I see you all three got beef, triple threat Backlash.
Yeah.
That's how I predict it to happen, as it usually does. It's a familiar recipe, guys. I'm not special. I'm not smart. I just watch a lot of wrestling. And guess what?
I wouldn't be surprised if they do a tag team match at Backlash where it's Tiffany and Jade versus Naomi and Nia, just to see what story, if the direction that they want to go is going to work out, and then we get Tiffany and Jade later on. Tiffany and Jade does not need to happen in 2 weeks. Not at all.
Just see the chemistry.
Yeah,
and see what happens. I can see that.
We all know it's WWE. They might put those two together.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen worse. So
same.
So Solo is in trouble because Jacob, Jacob does not need you, Solo, and the fact that Solo tried to have the balls to act like it was all him that made Jacob Fatu champion and made him relevant. And that is the furthest thing from the truth, because anybody who knows how to click youtube.com and searching Jacob Fatu, he do not need no second person, no third person. Nope. He is a bomb in his own right. So
he doesn't need no help.
I love that he took the mic from Solo and said, excuse me? Like, Solo, sorry, buddy, you've been a footnote since you left. Like, and so I love that they're literally letting Jacob Fatu go. They're just letting it, like, they're just pulling the string and let him do what he does. As you should with Jacob Fatu, though.
Yeah.
Like, he's polished like a diamond.
Yeah, he has years of being on the indies and holding championships and carrying himself. He's just comfortable. He's more than likely been putting in a lot of like WWE style work, to get up to speed, because to just be like brought in from the indies, not touch NXT, maybe be at the Performance Center a couple of weeks to learn, how they do timing and positioning for television, but outside of that, it's just his experience and what he's just knows how to do from generations and multiple family members being in the business. So it's not unbelievable that he is so
100%.
good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean it's and you're part of the Samoan dynasty, which is literally a 10-page document. And so, like, the fact that he's come up through it all and, he's so polished, that moonsault, and I was actually looking up something, and is that, like, he's so precise with his moonsault because he's trying to protect the other wrestler. Because if you notice that his knees will come over, and so he'll really, like, in full time, in full speed, and live, it looks really flawless. But if you like break it down, he's actually very good at protecting the other wrestler, which again shows how polished and that he is in the ring, because that move is like literally like a one jump, two jump, and go. Like it's not a hold the top ring and get situated. Like, no, it's polished. Like, it's literally, I would say, probably one of the best moonsaults I have seen ever. Just because it's so one step, two step done. There's no stopping point.
Yeah.
So LA Knight and Drew McIntyre are obviously chirping about all this stuff, and I somehow, so they have a match next week to basically determine the number one contender, which I think this is a pretty shoddy recipe again, because here we go with the previous champ and just Drew McIntyre, the WWE resident crybaby. And so there's not like more people that are getting involved in this match. It's just like, oh, well, they were chirping, so let's just have this match. Like, it's very rushed. Like it's like, hey, after WrestleMania, we're gonna have an argument and then we're gonna get a match. Like, it really was kind of shoddily planned. I don't fault Drew McIntyre. He's just doing what he's told. Same thing with LA Knight. I think it's boring booking by WWE.
It is.
So, yeah. But we'll see what happens. I feel like there's going to be an interruption and we're going to get a triple threat at Backlash, just because that is the recipe that's been used more than Krispy Kreme. So, this is the same recipe, making the same cookies they have been for 30, 40 years. So I see us getting a triple threat. I feel like Bloodline's going to get involved in this match, and as they do, and it'll be a triple threat going into Backlash. That is my guess based on the repetition of the business. Now, so Zelina Vega had a match a couple weeks ago, and obviously it was interrupted. It was a no DQ. So, and there was a championship match, of course. So then the following week, you have Zelina Vega face Chelsea Green and beat her in a non-title match. And then she goes again last week and has to win a third time to get the championship. Now, I will not sugarcoat this, but like, I'm so sick of them having these non-title matches for an opportunity at the title, especially when it's the workhorse titles. Like, this isn't like the top tier championships where like that would make more sense. But if it's workhorse titles, you defend it when every time you're in the ring. Period. Like, to sit there and have to have this trifecta match just to get her opportunity, even though she beat her last week, because we've seen so many times when we've had them win for a quote unquote opportunity and then they lose the opportunity even though they beat them already. And then they just have that mentality, like that whole like, oh yeah, I've pinned you before mentality for 6 months, but they never get a title. They just have, oh, I've pinned them. You know, it doesn't make much sense
It don't.
how they do that. Now, definitely a congrats though to Zelina Vega, first singles title, definitely well deserved. Because she's been around for a while.
Yep.
And now her husband's back, so this ought to be fun.
I'm happy her husband's back.
Yeah, so it's
Glad he stuck with the same music.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that so many AEW stars are back in WWE, and it's just kind of funny. It was like it's like they left when Vinnie Mac was in town, and they're like, I don't like it here anymore. I'm gonna go sign with someone else. And then now that he's gone and Triple H is at the helm, they're like, you know what? I'll come back. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
they rather
yeah.
wanted to work under Triple H.
Yeah, I think
I don't blame
it
him.
speaks volumes to Triple H as opposed to the upstart company that's still trying to figure it out.
yeah.
But at the same time, you've got a 40-plus-year-old machine that has been going, that has been, really setting the bar for how American professional wrestling is done. And, a lot of those guys enjoyed working with Triple H. When they were released, they knew, it was the same old regime politics and things like that.
Yeah.
They had to keep themselves busy. There was opportunity, so they went. It may not have panned out and worked out like they were envisioning or that they were promised, but now it's going to get to a point where WWE has more than they can effectively use, and we'll see more transition from one promotion to another. But it's going to take some time. There's still enough TV, I think, to get the majority of people that have resigned to
Yeah.
WWE on TV to have quality stories and to be utilized in a creative way that is not just a body in the ring, not just people
It's-
putting over other people.
Well, and the greatest thing about Aleister Black's return is that like he basically, like, it was like he never left, right?
Mhm.
With like the whole eye thing, when he had gotten that before he had left or whatever. And it's so funny that he did not have to say a word. Like, just showed up, showed out, black masked the Miz, and sat down, and that was it. And it was great. Like,
It was
I know
perfect.
I love the Miz,
Mhm.
because honestly, at this point in his career, he's just kind of there to help other talent, which I think is great for the business, especially obviously for Carmelo Hayes and everything. But like, I just like, what a way to come out, do your thing, kick them, done. Not a single word was spoken, but the impact was felt.
Right.
Like, that takes a lot of gusto to have that kind of impact without saying a word. So much like Rusev, I look forward to what they do with them on their respective rosters. I just don't want them to Andrade it though.
Yeah, but now that there's AAA under the WWE banner, I would not be surprised to see Andrade spending some time with AAA, getting that promotion to learn the WWE method or WWE way of
kind of fall into more of a managerial role.
Yeah,
and I think the thing is too is that NXT is thriving, and obviously them picking up AAA wrestling and everything else is obviously great for business. They've been working with TNA. I see that like people could go to TNA. I mean, because essentially WWE is the umbrella is getting bigger. But the difference between how WWE is doing it and how AEW has done it is that WWE still lets them be their own company without having everyone just intruding into every promotion. And that's the perfection of WWE is that they can buy companies without interrupting the company. And so they're just like, hey, we're under the umbrella of WWE right now. But TNA is still TNA. I love Joe Hendry, and I love I love that he literally shows up to NXT the following day, and I love it for the business. See, because it doesn't take them they don't have to intrude so much into the WWE brands that it causes too much commotion and chaos. Like, oh, he's taking opportunities. Like, no, he's still the TNA World Champion. He just showed up, but it's not like he's taking away opportunities. Now with AEW, you have them going and holding 7 titles like Mercedes Bore, and so you don't see them walking around with 7 promotion belts. And so when WWE but I don't think that'll happen. I think if he ends up going to AAA, he might just represent AAA. And I think that if Joe Hendry loses whatever, I think there might be seeing more people interjecting into to TNA, because there has been that with NXT superstars going to TNA, and I think we're going to see the same thing. After this Worlds Collide, we're going to see some interjecting of talent from, regular, main roster and NXT go down to there too. And I think, but it's not going to ruin the business. It's going to amplify the business.
So that is the hope and the ideal. But what I think people will push back on is that the WWE way isn't the only way to present professional wrestling. And I don't want the WWE to get so big because they're swallowing up other promotions that they can't maintain the business for each promotion. And, I would not be surprised if this is not a tactic to squeeze out other American promotions.
I don't think they'll do that though.
Yeah, you know what? I do think WWE wants to be the only game in town. And from a business standpoint, that's not good for business when you don't have competition and you don't have the ability to be challenged. You become relaxed in your
but it could also be just to the fact of the matter is that they're going to come alongside those companies and help them improve, because TNA has a fan base, AAA has a fan base, and I don't think WWE is going to just bombard everybody, because they know full well that they can't swallow every company up and then just have 2 shows and trying to like have all of those people on 2 or 3 shows. I think they're just going to help improve them. And I think that, we'll have some crossovers. Like, I think that, maybe next year or the year after at Survivor Series, we might see an original Survivor Series matches, where it's brand versus brand and stuff. I just don't see WWE doing that, just because if they've learned anything from watching or from being the top dog and watching how terrible AEW has done that, where they try to just like anybody can go anywhere kind of mentality, and it's just chaos, and it's just doesn't make any sense, just because you're sitting here like your champion's not there every week, and and it is so wishy-washy with the other brands that they have underneath that AEW is bought.
You know what? I think that is more so speaking to how AEW works versus how WWE works. WWE has had those growing pains and those acquisition pains when they bought up other territories and promotions, that they've worked that out. When they absorb someone, when they, it's one thing to have a partnership like they do with TNA. Like if TNA wants to like say like, hey, we're going to end our partnership, I think that they can. But if, they decide not to, or they want to talk about merger or acquisition or whatever that looks like, they have the opportunities to.
Right.
I think for WWE, they have the infrastructure to make that happen and make that seem very seem very smooth in its transition, where other promotions would not, because they have not done it. And that just speaks to the history of the WWE and where they've been and where they've gone. And when you're 6 years in versus 40 plus, there's a lot to learn. And I'm excited to see what happens, but at the same time I'm leery, because there'll come a point where WWE will have mass releases, and those people will eventually find a home.
Well, and that's the thing is that like they, because I mean they have stuff going on WWE Evolve too, and so like and they've had a lot of NXT stars even drop down to Evolve, to compete and everything else, and so like I feel like there's them having these separate brands and being it basically you have TKO, you have WWE, UFC, and then WWE has its own umbrella. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a lot of different places, because if they own it all, then they're making profits on the whole thing. So who cares at the end of the day, like which promotion you're on, because I'm making money off all of them, but I don't have to break up that promotion and that fan base to do so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And and so because they have their fans. You know what I'm saying? Like they have their TNA fans that are loyalists that go to the shows and everything else. They don't want like WWE's not that dumb, or they're gonna like, oh, I'm just gonna take over and then everybody else, fire half the management or something. Like I think they're gonna still let it be a brand.
I would
They're gonna get their money.
I would not be surprised if that is something that WWE would do, because we know the history of how previous regimes did work and did operate. And we also know that there are people that still believe that WWE has to be the only source for professional wrestling in America. I
mean,
I guarantee,
unless they're gonna start another show on like Wednesdays and call it WWE Impact or something. I mean, like I just feel like they're making money regardless, because of the fact that they do own the rights. So like I said, I think if they're gonna get paid regardless, why fuck with the formula, and swallow up companies and then see what happens. Like, why not?
It's
Why
it's
not?
those
They could
I
have
don't-
wrestling Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday for all they care.
Yeah,
Right.
And so
but we don't see Triple H being like Vince McMahon. That's what Vince McMahon wanted to do. He wanted you to go out there, buy these companies just to ruin them,
yeah.
close their doors, get rid of their talent, keep ones
Exactly.
they like. Triple H
And-
is not
and-
like that.
he's not
And-
Triple H is not a villain.
No,
You
He's
know,
a bus-
He
he's a,
likes
he's a,
to see-
bus-
he
he's a
likes-
businessman.
but it's
he
not
likes
true.
to see these other companies do well.
But it's not Triple H that is the president of WWE. It's Nick Khan, and it those business deals. There's a hierarchy of it. Triple H is running creative on shows and getting us
I
the
mean,
stories.
but
But Nick Khan is doing the business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nick Khan is not like Vince either.
I
But
think
that doesn't mean that they won't operate in a way that long term it takes away from what has been a natural evolving business, like with the indies and with smaller promotions.
but they're
smaller,
already
consistent
buying up.
promotions.
They're buying up all the indies, though. They're literally having indie championships at this point, the ID championships.
It's
And so I think it just makes more sense for them to. They have their hand in the cookie jar of every one of those businesses. Why not let those businesses succeed? Because if they succeed, you make money. And even though Triple H isn't like the head honcho, but it's not like he doesn't have a say in the room, And I think that they don't want to be. They've learned from the previous regime. They don't want to have bad. They don't want to cut ties and burn bridges with other people, other promotions, other businesses, because they all want to succeed. Wrestling wants to succeed. Yes, WWE is the top dog. It's always gonna be. It has been, now, then, forever. But as a whole, I think they want to see everyone succeed.
Yeah, see,
And
look at what they
there's-
did to WCW.
There's no
Yeah.
heart. There's no heart up for money in these transactions. And at the end of the day, it's about good wrestling and good sportsmanship and good shows and good entertainment. It's just
Yeah.
entertainment. Wrestling is like Law and Order. There's an SVU, there's a CI. At the end of the day, Law and Order succeeds. So, yeah. But
Yeah.
so an interesting TLC match, which I don't think I've seen a TLC match on an actual show in I don't even know how long. It's got to be a long time. There's been, no DQ matches or street fights or whatever else, but a straight up TLC match, man, what a match. And the one segment that I want to touch on was very reminiscent of the spear given by Edge to Jeff Hardy, and Angelo Dawkins spear. He's basically, again, that same thing where Jeff Hardy was hanging, right? And Edge speared him, right? And Angelo Dawkins spears Tommaso Ciampa on there. And I was like, man, what a spot for an homage.
Yeah.
And maybe most people didn't get that, but I got it. I think, because they're the originators of TLC, the Dudley Boys,
The
Edge
Hardys
and Christian, and the Hardys. They are the embodiment of TLC, and I caught it. I caught the homage.
Mhm.
And obviously, Motor City Machine Guns and who was it? DIY, sorry. They put a phenomenal match on. And honestly, the TLC mentality did not disappoint. Obviously, Street Profits retain, which I'm good with. I'm good with a little bit of longevity to a tag title contention and holding on to it for a little while. I don't want no year, but I'm good with 3 to 6 months minimum. Not this women's division where they just go to the same people every time. So that. So that is SmackDown. So Backlash is essentially not this week, but next.
I think it's May
next Saturday.
10th.
Yeah, it's next Saturday or the following Saturday. So I look forward to see what they're going to compile. I mean, I think 2 weeks is more than efficient time for them to. I mean, Backlash is like a CPLE anyways. I mean, they're nowhere near. WrestleMania is an A show.
Right.
SummerSlam is an A show. Survivor Series is a B show. So I look forward to just what they're going to compile. I mean, we've already talked about the realms of possibility. I don't see Jay defending. I mean, obviously John Cena is. I don't see Jay defending at Backlash. I don't really see anything there quite yet. I mean, there's 2 weeks. I mean, I guess we could see, but yeah. So I guess we'll put a pin, and we'll look forward to seeing what the next 2 week compiles us. Next week, hopefully when we record, we do have some remnants of a match card to talk about and discuss. But, wait and see. That is the way of WWE. It is wait and see what they compile, what they put together, because either way, we like it. So this is the Lockdown Podcast. Peace.